فإنا نوينا التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلال على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا مما يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك آمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
You see the open the third.
Is it? Okay, find it.
If you can't.
This is not the one. No. Not the one. This is Hal. Why guys wasting my time with all this technology stuff? Right. So will share with us some of what they had explored in the Quran that we had mentioned to you 2 weeks ago, but we gave you respite, and we delayed you in that work until this week. So it's very overdue. We'll go first and share with us some of what they think they may have found, or what they tried to find, or anything. Read of us. ذلك.
I can help you, sir. You like the code? Is it the wrong one?
No, that's not the one.
Is it the missing a listen?
No, this is mansubat. I'm doing marfu'at.
That's all mansubat. Let's go. Nahu. Second textbook. We have many versions of the same things. We should do that.
Rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
That's
just
so-
scroll there and show me.
That's the one, yeah.
There's a Word document that should be fine.
Front and center.
Which lesson are you doing?
What are we doing now?
Mubtada, not Khabar.
You done the Khabar.
Mubtada is done already. Oh, Mubtada, yeah.
Right. Yes, you were saying?
Was used in that way, kind of be more specific. So if the new statement that is the detail of using indicates that it's all of the table. So it isn't the indication that if we look in this track, this is the detail on the table.
Okay. So this is that ذلك من فضل الله علينا. As you may add a lot of focus on the min. So yes, where's the mubtada there? Where's the khabar? Min fadli الله علينا. No. So using over here, using the word min, what do you say? What does it do? Excellent. That's actually a very good one. She chose the verse ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا, and this is in verse. Does the surah come first? Surah 12, verse 38. So surah 12 is what? Yusuf. Yusuf. And what does he say in Surah Yusuf here? وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا وَعَلَى النَّاسِ وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا وَعَلَى النَّاسِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Says, and where does this happen? I'm going to take some time to, because she also took the time to go and look at it. And so we'll take some time to, and that's one of the main objectives of this class. That's not only to get through some Nahu rules, but to see how that deepens our understanding of the Quran. And so she excellently pointed out that what? That Allah could have easily said, ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. And it would have still been Rafa. But it would have been a one-worder. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. That is Allah's favor upon us. The meaning still stands. But Allah says, ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. That is from the favor of Allah upon us. Right? And this minya, she says that it indicates that it's many. How does she know that without any tafsir? Because I would have said, with the tafsir, I would have said that min there is li tab'id. It's for tab'id. What's tab'id? It comes from the word ba'd. What does ba'd mean? Some. Right? Ba'd means some. So when you say ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا, ذَلِكَ بَعْضُ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. That's some of the favors of Allah upon us, not the only one. So it indicates that there are much more favors. So Allah uses the word min to emphasize the fact that Allah has given many favors and He is solely mentioning this one favor. And that is unique in relation to Yusuf alayhi salam, because he says this in a time where one can see no favor of Allah upon him. It just come from what? 3 levels of something that looks like a clear disfavor, being taken out, being plotted by his brothers, and being stripped from his family, being sold, right? And then being falsely accused. 4 levels of what seems to be disfavor. And he's saying this in the prison. When they come to ask him for a favor. And they come to ask him for a favor. And what's that favor? Tell us the interpretation of this dream. No? And so in what looks like 4 levels of disfavor, he speaks about Allah as a favor upon him. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. Right? مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. It's not appropriate that we associate any partners with Allah. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا وَعَلَى النَّاسِ. That is from Allah's favor upon us. وَعَلَى النَّاسِ. And Allah favors everyone. And you see that ba'd there. He says, ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. That's some of Allah's favor upon us and some of Allah's favor upon the rest of creation. And it's unique because he says it in all of this disfavor, in all of the seeming disfavor, or in all of these conditions that seem to be the exact opposite of favor. No. So if you wanted to be thankful, right, if it was normal, we'll just say, alhamdulillah, here we can see at least Allah has given us a favor. No, we're saying, no, it's Allah's, but it's said over here in such a way that the tab'id, when you say that it's some of Allah's favor upon us, you implicitly mention all the other favors. And you say, Allah has many favors. I'm only going to mention some. Right? So that is a very good one. The choosing of the word min instead of using ذَلِكَ, it would have read ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. One from the males. Oh, we have to top that now. Which verse is it? Okay, 17 was Shamsu. No problem. So you chose to go the route of tafsir. But what can you take from that? Tajri. Because Allah could have said, وَالشَّمْسُ جَارٍ لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا. Because that's a weak letter. In halatul raf'a, it would have been jarin. But it would have still been halatul raf'a. But that's weak letters, you don't understand it. But Allah could have said, وَالشَّمْسُ جَارٍ لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا. The sun is moving towards. But Allah didn't use an ism here, Allah used a fi'l. What's the difference between using an ism and using a fi'l? When you say ism, when you use an ism, right? It makes the concept a part of the thing that the concept is being applied to. So like to run. We're saying when you say was shamsu jarin, the sun is a runner. It means that an intrinsic part of the sun is the fact that it moves. Right? When Allah says tajri, Allah is saying no, it's not intrinsic to the sun. Tajri. I'm just saying it could be like this. Is running, right? But the idea is what? The idea is that this running and this movement is not intrinsic to the sun. لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا, Allah says, to an appointed time. But when Allah says jarin, Allah doesn't give the quality of running to the sun because Allah is making it run. Allah doesn't give it the ismul fa'il that it's the doer. Because Allah is actually the one that's making it run. You could look at it like that also. You could look at it like that. So the difference between using an ism and using a fi'l is that when you use a fi'l, right, then like for example, when I say when Allah speaks about like when Allah uses إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. When indeed those people whom the malaika takes them whilst they are ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, the wrongdoers of themselves. Allah locks them to this condition. Allah brands them and gives the name wrongdoers. But generally when Allah speaks about the sinner, then Allah says, يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ ثُمَّ يَسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُ. He wrongs himself. So Allah doesn't brand him because there's opportunity to do tawbah. But when the malaika come to fetch his soul, then at that point Allah says, ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah brands him because there's no opportunity for tawbah. So the difference between using an ism and using a fi'l is that when you use the ism, then that thing is branded with that quality. So here, the sun is not branded with the quality of moving. Allah moves it. The moving just takes place with the sun, if you can understand that. Yes. The khabar is tajri. It's the verb. The sun. The sun is running. What's the point? The point is that when you use the verb, it tells you that the sun does the act of running. The sun is not a runner. It's being moved. It's not majhool. It's a very fine point. It's not majhool. The sun is not being moved. The sun is moving, but the sun is not a mover. Like me, I walk, and I may be a walker, but Allah is making me walk. Right? It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to apply. At this point, I could just be overstretching the idea to make you understand the concept because he chose that example. But that could be a possible benefit of it. Okay, we'll take one more from the online. And then we'll move on to the Mubtada. Online people, where are you? Reveal yourselves. They are Tasneem, Sadiqa, Hendricks, Mursa, Peterson, Armin, and Shamila Jardine. Are you with us? Or are you passengers today?
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. We are with you.
Yes, please give us your example from your homework. That you try to contemplate. Doesn't have to be right, only has to be an attempt. Okay, we'll take a last one from the ladies then. Who else will look at the example? No one else did it? No one else looked? No, we translated it last week. We're done with translating. No one else did it? Anyone else from the males? Okay, we'll take it. So this is number 19. نحن خلقناكم. Right? And she's saying here that Allah could have made this a نحن خلقناكم. What surah is this? Rahman? No. واقعة. Surah واقعة. نحن خلقناكم فلولا تسبحون. واقعة. Right? So نحن خلقناكم, Allah says. So here the focus is on making, why make خلقناكم a khabar? Allah could have easily left it as just a jumla fi'liya and said خلقناكم فلولا تسبحون. But Allah said نحن خلقناكم. This is called إعادة الضمير. When you bring out the pronoun, right? And what's the benefit of bringing out the pronoun? To emphasize the doer, to emphasize the doer. Like you say, like when they ask Ibrahim, أأنت فعلت هذا بآلهتنا يا إبراهيم؟ أأنت? They could have easily asked him, أفعلت هذا بآلهتنا? Did you do this? Because the doer is already in the verb. But when you make إعادة الضمير, when you take the ضمير out, even though you don't need to mention the ضمير, you emphasize the doer. أأنت فعلت هذا? Did you do this? So when Allah says here, نحن خلقناكم, instead of just saying خلقناكم, we would have understood it just the same. Allah says, نحن خلقناكم فلولا تسبحون. So why don't you sing our praises? Right? So here it is to emphasize the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that created, who is the creator. Those are two good examples. طيب. So we suffice for that. So you see, just by you have no tafsir. You have no tafsir Ibn Kathir, you have no Ibn Ashur, you have no Fakhruddin al-Razi. You just have grammar, right? But because the Quran is a linguistic miracle, then also when you apply your mind to the grammar and you think a little bit about, well, Allah could have said this in any way. Why does Allah say it in this way? Then you experience the meaning that Allah wants you to experience a little bit more. Type. So we continue. And we're now on page number 11, and we're moving to the Mubtada. We're moving to the Mubtada. So we don't have time to look at every example and highlight why that type of khabar is used. So we try to look at a few, and we move on now to the Mubtada. So what is a Mubtada? Mubtada comes from the word what? Bada'a. What does Bada'a mean? To begin. Bada'a means to begin. So the Mubtada is the place of beginning. Not really the ibtada, yabtadi'u, ibti'adan, mubtada. Right? So the mubtada is the beginner, the one that comes first. Right? So the first mubtada that he speaks about for us here is you get different types of mubtadas, right? And generally, we know the mubtada to be a word that is in rafa, right? And we can see the raf because that has a dhamma on it. And that's the most common type of mubtada, right? For example, when we say al-baytu jamilun, the word bayt, there is the mubtada. Why? Because it's the first ism. It's the first ism. And the mubtada is described by what? By the fact that it is the first ism in the sentence. It is the first ism in the sentence, right? And if there comes, yes. And the mubtada is a mubtada because nothing else affects it. The mubtada is actually the default state of a word. The mubtada. So by default, a word will be rafa, unless something else acts upon it. By default, a word will be rafa, unless something else acts upon it. Right? And that's interesting because there's a book. The book is called Nahwul Qulub. Nahwul Qulub, the Nahwu of the hearts. It's written by somebody called Imam al-Qushayri, who writes his famous Risalat al-Qushayriya, the Qushayri's epistle. That's a book in Tasawwuf. And it's one of the most seminal and former texts in Tasawwuf. So he writes we're not speaking about the Risalat al-Qushayriya, we're speaking about Nahwul Qulub. And in Nahwul Qulub, he says that he speaks about like how you can understand spirituality through mastering Nahu. So, like one of the ideas is this, like the default state of a word is raf unless something acts upon it. So that's like the fitra. You see, the default state of insan is that you're raised unless something acts upon you to cause you to be otherwise. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. And we created man in the best of molds. Man is raised by default, right? So there's a relationship between the beginning being, and he speaks about this stuff. For example, he says you get 3 hals. You get the hal of rafa', and you get the hal of nasb, and you get the hal of khafd. Khafd is jar, but in real Nahu they call it khafd. So khafd means what? Means to be lowly. So they say that ad-dammatu alamatun lil-raf'i. Damma is a sign of rafa, isn't it so? So damma yadummu means to do what? Damma means to bring something together. Damma means to bring something together. The word damma yadummu. So they say ad-dammatu alamatun lil-raf'. Damma is a sign of loftiness. So they say that damma ijtima'iyya, togetherness, being together and having unity, is a sign that the community is elevated. And having a sense of togetherness is a sign of loftiness. It's a sign of high character, and it's a sign of elevation. So it's just like the people of Nahu say, ad-dammatu alamatu lil-raf'i. Dhamma is a sign of rafa in the spiritual realm. Then dhamma in its linguistic meaning of togetherness is also a sign of being raised. And they say what? That al-fathu alamatun lin-nasb. Right? Al-fathu alamatun lin-nasb. Right? So what is nasb? Nasb is also that like justice and uprightness. They say nasbur raya. When you raise the flag up, they call it nasbur raya. So they say al-fathu, and fath means what? Victory. So they say that victory, fath alamatul lin-nasb. No, is a sign of uprightness, also of raising the flags, and also openness or opening. Like when you open the door, in the old days when they used to conquer a city, that's why in Surah Fath, it's the surah of Fath, victory. It also means opening, because cities used to have doors. That's why they say adkhulu alayhimul bab, enter upon the door to Bani Israel. Allah tells them to enter. فَإِذَا دَخَلْتُمُوهُ فَإِنَّكُمْ غَالِبُونَ. And when you enter it, you will be conquerors. Because the city used to have a gate. Like anybody who's been to Palestine will know that the old city, Jerusalem, has a gate. And they open it just before Fajr. Isn't it so? If you're living outside of, when we were in Palestine, we lived not inside the complex, outside. Then before Fajr, you want to go make Fajr there, then you must wait an hour before, then they open the gates of the old city, and then you go in to pray, right? So it used to have a door. So when you break the door of a city, or when you open the door, when you get the keys, it's considered victory. It's considered victory. So they say that al-fathu, that to open the gates, alamatul lin-nasb, is a sign that you're going to put the flag up and you're going to have victory, right? So and also, like when Allah grants you openings, then that's also one of the signs of the flag going up. Meaning, and what's the flag going up? You put the flag up when you get victory, and you're coming closer to victory when Allah gives you openings, right? And they say that al-kasru alamatun lil khafd, and kasra is a sign of khafd. What's khafd? Khafada yakhfidu means to be lowly. So they say al-kasru, disjointedness. Disjointedness. What's disjointedness? When you don't have muwasala, when things are not connected. The lack of istiqama. When you cut off your actions. Alamatul lil khafd, as a sign of low character. And also al-kasru, brokenness, and when there's separation, right? Whether it's between people or communities, that's often a sign of low character within that. No? So this is, why am I speaking about this? Nahul qulub. That's fine. These classes have no time limit. Why was I saying all of this? Because the default state of something is rafa. And the default state of man is ali. Okay, I'm no more nahul qulub, right? Remind me. Okay. So the default state of something is raf, and then you call that a mubtada. That's a mubtada. Okay. So this mubtada that we're going to investigate here, which you already know, is called the mubtada that is mabni. That is mabni. What does it mean for a word to be mabni? It comes from the word bana yabni. What does bana yabni mean? What does bana mean? Man bana baytan lillah, bana Allahu lahu baytan fil jannah. Are you looking at your notes? Oh. What does bana yabni mean? Bana means to build, right? So it means that when the word is mabni, it's made built, meaning what? The word is built like this. The word is built like this. So if the word is built like that, it can't change. That's why they call it non-declinable. I think that's why they call it non-declinable. I don't know what non-declinable means. I just know the word is mabni, right? So it means that it's fixed. Therefore, the state of rafa will be implied. Therefore, the state of rafa will be implied. What did we say last week? What do you call it when you can't see the hal of the word, but you know it's that hal? Fi mahalli. Ahsanti. Excellent. That's called fi mahalli. Right? So it's in a mahal of rafa. This is the meaning of implied. Okay. So here the author gives us some examples of mabni words. What are some examples? Number one is here. Number one is the damir. So the damir is mabni. What's the damir? The pronoun. The pronoun is built, right? The pronoun is built. It's non-declinable, cannot change. Right? Take that to the LGBTQ community. Tell them that the pronoun is mabni, it's built. The pronoun can't change. It's interesting, eh? But then again, You can make a word, like for example, you can have a word that's by default masculine. You can make it feminine. You add atun, atin, atin. So be wary of that fallacious argument because they might just defeat you with the second one. Khair. So you have the damir. The second one or type is the ismul ishara. Ismul ishara. هذا هذه ذلك تلك هؤلاء أولئك. And if you want to find the rest of the asma al-ishara, then you can look in your Nahu book 1. In your book 1 over there, at the last lesson of Nahu book 1, probably be like around page 20. There's about 26 pages in that book. Maybe around page 20 there, you will find the lesson on Ismul Ishara. If you want to revisit that, you can find it over there. Right? The third is Ismul Mawsul. Ismul Mawsul, and you studied this before. Right? So the Ismul Mawsul will also be mabni, it will never change. Alladhi, allati, right? The Mubtada will often be a mabni word. So he gives an example here and he says, Hada Jamilun. Hada Jamilun. Right? Okay. طيب. So let us go around and you'll make some basic sentences with using any one of these three. So this is how it's going to work. We'll use a damir and then a ismul ishara, then a ismul mawsul. Right? So the first person number one will get a damir, then ismul ishara, then ismul mawsul. Damir, ismul ishara, ismul mawsul. Right? Okay. First one over here, damir. Start with you. But you have to make a sentence. A simple two-word sentence, very simple. Huwa tawilun. Excellent. He is tall. That's an is sentence. So you have a mubtada and you have a khabar. Next, you have a ismul ishara. هذا هذه هؤلاء أولئك. No, I am the teacher and you're the student. You don't give me an instruction. I give you instruction. Take the word هذا. هذا, this. Okay, what word do you want? What English word do you want? I'll give it to you in Arabic. Table. هذا, the word table in Arabic. What type of table do you want? Do you want a desk or do you want a kitchen table? You want a desk. The word desk is maktabun. هذا maktabun. This is a desk. Excellent. طيب. The next one is ismul mawsul. Allati or alladhi. That's you. This one is a bit tough. Ismul mawsul is tough because you don't generally start a sentence with this. What do you have? You can use alladhi, allati as you like. If you need a word in Arabic, I'll give you the word. You just have to make the sentence. Went means dhahaba. Dhahaba ila al-masjid. Excellent. Alladhi dhahaba ila al-masjid. The one who went. Alladhi, he's the one who went to the masjid. Alladhi dhahaba ila al-masjid. The next one is back to damir. Huwa, hum, hiya, huma. Huwa kabirun. Huwa kabirun means he is big. Excellent. The next one is again ismul ishara. Hadha, hadihi, dhalika, tilka, haula, ila, ulaika. Dhalika al-bab. That is the door. Excellent. And that's interesting because generally when you make a sentence with a ism with the ismul ishara, then the mubtada, I mean the khabar, will be indefinite. Dhalika babun, that is a door. But you say dhalika al-bab. It can either mean that door, or you say dhalika al-bab. How do you translate dhalika al-bab? That door. Isn't it so? Dhalika al-bab. How do you say that is a door? Dhalika babun. That is a door. But how do you say that is the door? Dhalika al-babu. What's the difference? The difference is the way that you read it. It looks exactly the same. The only difference is that the context will tell you this is a khabar. Make sense? So that's a very nice example. You have generally when you make a sentence with a ismul ishara, then the khabar will be indefinite. For example, dhalika, that babun is a door. But if I now say dhalika al-bab, what does it mean? That door. You will know that from your notes in ismul ishara. But sometimes in a certain context, when you say dhalika al-babu, can you see the difference? You say that is the door. It looks exactly the same. The only difference in translation is the fact that it's in a different context. Make sense? You can't see it now. We have to assume that there is some context like that. Like you say, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ is supposed to mean that book. But how do you translate it? That is a book. Most of the time we translate it is, that is the book in which there is no doubt. So can you see that? Fine. Okay. Sometimes they will do that. Sometimes they will do that. إعادة الضمير. They will bring the damir back. That's an excellent observation. Lots of times, in order to use it definitely, they will say ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْبَابِ. Why? Because the meaning cannot generally be understood when you put that al there and you don't bring the huwa back. But there are instances where it is like that. Okay, we're done with the males. So that was Ismul Ishara. Now you have Ismul Mawsul. Start with you. Now next to you, she's in the start. No, we're done with Alika. We're with Alladhi, Allati. Alladhani, Alladhaini. Don't give Luqma, this is not Taraweeh. Alladhi, Alladhina. Okay, give a Quran verse, it's fine. You must start with Alladhi or Alladhina. Come, this is the last one. Okay, anyone else pass it on? الذي ذهب إلى المدرسة. The one who went to the school. The difficulty with the Ismul Mawsula is that it's that الذين آتيناهم الكتاب, for example. It is a mubtada, but it's also not a mubtada. And I think you can get the feeling of that. It doesn't quite feel like a mubtada. And that's because it's true. Right? But for the purpose of these notes, it's a mubtada to some extent. But you see the Ismul Mawsul must have a sila. And then you add the Ismul Mawsul, you add the sila to it. And the sila is also the mubtada. So you say, الذي ذهب كبير. The one who left, كبير, is big. So الذي ذهب, that whole thing is the ismul mawsul, right? The ismul mawsul and the sila, all of that together is the mubtada. الذي ذهب كبير. The one who left is big. You understand how to use the ismul mawsul? No. The ismul mawsul cannot stand on its own. It must have a qualifying sentence. So when you say alladhina, you must, those who, alladhina zalamu, those who wronged. So that whole thing is the sila, because the sila must be qualified by another sentence. The ismul mawsul must be qualified by a sentence. Then now the khabar is what? Alladhina dhahabu, those who left, khasirun, are losers. The whole concept of mawsul and the sentence that comes with it, that whole thing is the mubtada. And then the khabar is the word afterwards. Make sense? I'll give you a few examples. Allati dhahabat jamilatun. The one who left is beautiful. Alladhi kataba alimun. The one who wrote is knowledgeable. And. Type. So we end on that note. For homework, do all of these examples. Translate them and find out what type of khabar you have there, or you already know what it is, so just translate them and figure out which one of these three it is. على هذا القدر نكتفي وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. I don't know how the online students are keeping up, because this is a very discursive class, so do give us some suggestions to better your experience. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم الحمد لله رب العالمين.